I'm Mademoiselle and Sasha Deuxième Chanel. And as you guys can tell by today's title, we are going to be talking about empty vessels. Now, there's so much that could be said about this, and it's very interesting because a lot of people don't know this exists. However, I did mention empty vessels in a recent video, and you guys really wanted me to expand upon it. So here we are. Now, first things first, if you know anything about empty vessels, or if there's something that is very pertinent to your culture regarding empty vessels, I would love to hear them down below because it's actually a very, very interesting topic. And like I said, there is so much that can be said about it. So, of course, again, feel free to add down below. Also, if you're seeing my face and you think, oh my gosh, she changed her content. No, I have 3 separate channels. Everything, again, is going to be linked down below. So when it comes to empty vessels, that's something that I've known about since I was a kid. I went to Catholic school. I grew up in Christian and Catholic churches, and it's often something that would come up in sermons. But I think that a lot of people kind of forget that that's a real thing, or a lot of people kind of just brush it off and they're like, that doesn't exist, or they think that it's a metaphor, but it's not, right? Have you ever met someone or come across someone that just seems empty? Like literally, it's as if they have zero emotions. They don't care about anything or anyone, not even themselves. They literally are just dead in the eyes. Now, mind you, this can also be attributed to drug use, mental illness, extreme mental and emotional distress. But for some people, they genuinely do not have a soul. Now, how does that even happen? To be quite honest with you, there are numerous ways that someone would not have a soul. So one of the main ways is that they were just born that way. Unfortunately, things happen and some people just are sent here as empty vessels. And that could be for a multitude of different reasons. Sometimes it's due to lineal issues, some sort of spiritual warfare, and sometimes it's just something that happens. Not everyone has a soul. Your soul can also be taken from you, manipulated, or someone can soul swap with you. Now, soul swapping is kind of a similar topic, but would probably need its own dedicated video. I probably wouldn't touch on that for a while because the whole soul swapping thing also has many different layers. But we have done some KrikKrak videos regarding people trying to take other people's souls. I think there's some Haitian voodoo stories that I've done that are similar to that as well. It's actually pretty terrifying, but in some instances, there are people out there that do have the ability to soul swap with you, literally to steal your life, to become you in a sense, or steal your destiny, which it depends. There is the act of taking one's soul and keeping it somewhere, or taking someone's essence of their soul, which is their T-bonage in Haitian Creole. Also, there is the act of just stealing their destiny, basically taking what it is that is for them and keeping it for yourself. And typically the people that have the ability to do this are people that are legitimate sorcerers. These are, of course, the mumbles, the ogons, the buckors, the high priests, right? The high priestesses, the OBO womans, all of that. Typically, the people of a higher order have the ability to do that, but not all the time. There are some people that are not high priestess or whatever, but have that gift of being able to conjure souls. Again, a lot of it, there's a lot that goes into it, but we're just going to keep this very, very surface level. And of course, finally, there are people who are just so wretched. Okay, they are so bad. They're in such a bad state of mind. They have such a terrible life, or they torture their bodies so much that their souls just walk away. Yes, you at the end of the day are your soul, but we are also flesh. Your soul and your flesh is not the same. As much as we feel like it is, and as much as we would want it to be, it is not. Your soul is completely different from your body. Especially in Haitian culture, it is believed that when you die, there is a completely different level after death. You don't just pass away. You don't just stay in your body. Your soul goes somewhere else. And of course, many other cultures, you can be reincarnated, or you go on to the afterlife, different dimensions, so on and so forth. Your body and your soul are completely different. In many cases, some people treat their body so horribly or end up in such very, very horrible, dangerous situations that their soul just literally leaves them. They're completely walking off. Very crazy. But I have one story about that. I'll probably tell that way later down the line one of these days. But yeah, it's very much so possible. Now, you guys are probably where does your soul go after that? this is where you go into the whole transferring soul situation. Sometimes your soul can end up going into someone else. Sometimes your soul just ends up returning to God or returning to hell or wherever it is that it was sold to, because sometimes that ends up being a thing as well. I already briefly mentioned I had a friend that had a boyfriend that had no soul. Yeah, long story short, his mother sold his soul. Yeah, exactly. So in very rare cases, you might have a family member that said, you know what, I don't give a fuck about my cousin Susan. I don't give a fuck about my daughter Ashley. I don't give a fuck about, Raekwon. Why not sell his soul so I can get $1,000,000? Yeah. But the caveat with that is you kind of have to be I don't want to say owner of the soul, but you kind of have to be in direct relation to that person for it to work. So, i.e., your child has to be something where it's like you kind of have authority over that person while you're doing it. But sometimes you don't even need that. Again, it depends on many different things. So yeah, like my friend's man had a mom and she's a witch and she thought the shit was a joke. And yeah, she sacrificed her son's soul. And to this day, they still cannot retrieve said soul. I don't that is beyond my expertise. I don't even know how to yeah, it's a whole thing, right? So essentially, yeah, you can have a soul walk off. You can have someone sell your soul. You can be born with no soul. And of course, finally, you can be condemned and just have it taken away from you because you did something that bad, right? You ever hear how people be like, well, that's such a soulless act. Like, you can't have a soul if you're doing things like that. Like, well, that person must have no soul because that's such a horrible thing. That saying really comes from something. There's some things that you just can't come back from, unfortunately, even though a lot of us like to think we can. Even though a lot of people like to preach the whole idea of, oh, well, God always forgives and the universe always heals and time heals all wounds. No, some things are just damn right unforgivable. And I'm sorry I have to say it because no one else is going to say it. And I guess it is an unpopular opinion. There are some things that we do out there as human beings, okay? There's some heinous acts being committed that are just damn right unforgivable, even by God, by the spirits, by anyone. And it's funny because people will sit there and argue that things are forgivable, but it's like, why is there hell? Okay, exactly. It's a form of punishment for a life lived that was unforgivable. To be quite honest with you, if everything was forgivable and everyone was able to just repent everything that they did and actually care about it and go to heaven, I do not think there would be a hell. I think some things are just common sense. But unfortunately, people choose not to read. But unfortunately, people just don't choose to use their heads. They just want to repeat what has been regurgitated to them. But in retrospect, understand there are some things that some people do out there that is deemed unforgivable, either because they do not care and they have no remorse, or because it's like, yeah, I don't know if we could really forgive or rehabilitate someone that has chopped a toddler or chopped any human being to pieces. I don't think people who have committed mass attacks on cities and places, especially due to race, religion, or some other vanity, is something that can be chopped up to, I'm a good person now. That was 30 years ago. There are certain things that literally will cause your soul to be taken away and your vessel to just be left there in the flesh. And it's very unfortunate because, a lot of people especially like to talk about like how, we shouldn't succumb to flesh and how a lot of people end up like, succumbing to flesh and that's why they're such bad people and da-da-da-da-da. Yes and no. Okay. At the end of the day, all of it goes hand in hand. We are human at the end of the day. And there are certain things that unfortunately we're going to do. Everyone is going to sin. And I don't even want to say no sin is worse than the other because obviously taking a life willingly is completely different from me stealing a piece of candy at Walmart. Both are bad. Both are sins. But it's like, no, there's certain sins that kind of are worse. Okay. Especially in Catholicism, or I guess they always talk about mortal sin versus other sins and stuff like that. So yes, there are certain sins such as mortal sins that will weigh heavier on your soul and can cause it to walk off or be taken from you. Additionally, you have practitioners that are extremely moral, that do not believe in fuck shit. Okay, fuck people literally roaming this earth, that will fuck around and take your soul and store it somewhere as punishment so that you do not die with it and basically you stay on earth in limbo, which, yeah, happens all the time, especially in Haiti. That's why I always tell you guys, lead a good life. Don't sit there fucking people over, doing stupid things, having horrible thoughts about people, doing things you shouldn't be doing, because 9 times out of 10, there's probably someone out there watching you do that shit. that knows that you're doing that shit and is not fond of it if they have the opportunity to do so. Obviously, this can happen to anyone, but I really want to make sure that it doesn't happen to you guys. So make sure you guys are protecting yourself however you do so, whether that is through prayer, holy water, Florida water, war water, crystals, whatever. Okay. And also make sure you're not just going to anyone to read you, whether we're talking about tarot reading, numbers, the chart thing. Do not just let any and everyone read your charts. I don't know why people just be having their charts willy-nilly and just be giving them to whatever. Don't be sitting here telling everyone your sun, moon, and rising. All of these things can be used to manipulate you and in turn used to soul swap or steal your soul if the right person has the power to do so. Now, there are also cases of people's souls leaving temporarily and then coming back later. That's something that a lot of people hear about. But I will say that it's not really as common, but sometimes you'll hear about this happening when people are sick, right? Especially when people are terminally ill. You will hear people talk about how they died and went to heaven, or died but like came back and then died, like, you know, they were just shifting in and out of life and death. And it's funny because sometimes it's chopped up to like medical phenomenon, like they always try to give it a name, or they'll be like, oh, that's, you know, ICU delirium, etc. And a lot of times it's not. There are some people out there that are that sick that their bodies literally cannot stay, like literally, like their souls are literally battling with their body to either stay or to go. So that's another way that a person could probably not have their soul. There are many times where someone is like terminally ill, either from cancer, HIV, AIDS, hepatitis, meningitis, all types of things, like all types of crazy illnesses. It could be any illness you can think of. And literally their body is so sick that their soul is just like, yeah, nah, like I need a better vessel. So sometimes it's not necessarily anything nefarious or someone taking your soul or whatever the case may be. Sometimes your soul just kind of leaves temporarily and waits for you to get better so it can come back. There's also cases like I talk about with my uncle, if you guys are on the membership. I don't know if this video is going to drop before the membership video because I still got to do a thumbnail and stuff like that. But there are some cases where people voluntarily get their souls taken off so that they can be healed. This is something that my uncle did. Again, join the membership and you guys can watch it. I'm actually doing a series on it because apparently my uncle died with no soul and now he's suffering in the afterlife. So that's a thing that I have to figure out, right? So yeah, you can voluntarily do that. People in Haiti do that all the time. Some people get their souls taken away from them or put somewhere else specifically so people cannot attack them. Or if they're sick, they will give it to an ogon or a mumbo to keep it for them, to heal them, and then keep it tucked away so they don't get gravely sick again. This is something like very common. That's why it's funny. Like a lot of you guys were commenting and asking me about it like personally. I'm like, oh, like this is something that people don't talk about or don't know about. So yeah, that's a very quick synopsis of what soulless vessels and, you know, empty vessels and stuff is about. Maybe one day I'll do a more in-depth video, but we need to get to 100K because like, what are we sign up for? Like, what are we actually doing? So if you're watching this, please make sure you guys smash that like button, smash that subscribe button, and of course, check out my other channels. Thank you guys so much for watching. But most importantly, thank you guys so much for 70,000 subscribers. I actually just hit it like maybe a week or so ago. And I'm just like, oh my God, thank you. Like, I think you guys really like me. With that being said, make sure you guys like, share, and subscribe. And I'm going to see y'all next time.